Welcome to the Let's Talk with Paula show, where I have one of my co-hosts, I might as well say, because he's on here so often and he always has wonderful topics to talk about with me. And so he's here with me today. I'm going to have him introduce himself. I do want to say my condolences go out to all those families that have had the little 3-year-old child that got murdered, the kids that got drowned, and it was just somebody that got killed in the District of Columbia just not too long ago. My heart goes out to all those families that are, going through this devastation at this time. Death is a natural thing that's supposed to be, natural. Not when you're 3 years old.
Not children. I got a 3-year-old.
Yeah, and you haven't even lived your life, and somebody shoots you in the car for no reason. Yeah. So let you introduce yourself. So maybe we hit that, and then we go to what we have here.
Okay.
This is important. Okay, that you gave me. This is very important.
Okay. Well, good evening. My name is Donald Bell, and I'm an attorney here in Maryland. I'm based here in Prince George's County, and I'm happy to be back here today. To talk to the audience, the TV audience.
Yeah, and usually we on point. That's why I don't usually worry about it, because we always stay on point. Our spirits just seem like we just know what people need to know. And,
of course.
And you work in that business where people need to know. Then all I do is watch the news. I watch MSNBC, CBS, whatever comes on. I watch it. My son said, "You need to stop watching that stuff." I said, "Well, you have to understand, I'm on a talk show, and I'm trying to make sure that I can give people information. So I need to know what's going on in the world." He said, "Well, it makes everybody depressed." I said, "Well, don't think it doesn't make me depressed, but I still need to know."
You need to know.
Because I need to let them know, because everybody's not watching the news.
Yeah.
So maybe they're watching us, and they know that they can get some good information. But my heart goes out to everybody, and anybody that has lost anybody recently. Our condolences go out to you from Let's Talk with Paula, the Lady Nighthawk show, and we just want to say thank you. And Jeremiah, I Am Church. Okay, so Donald, I'm so glad that you're here today, and you have some very good topics. But before we move to these, because these are very important for people to know, because things change every day.
Yeah.
Is that the killing of the little 3-year-old that got shot for no reason? The person just shot in the car, and it was really for no reason. It's my understanding, and the drowning. I think, okay, I said this on our last show. You weren't with me that day. But I think Maryland needs to have, some parts of Maryland have alarm systems where, sirens go off, like in southern Maryland, certain parts, like when tornado watches and things come on, there's certain parts that they have. But I really think that a good example was the other day the phone rang and it was an alert. Okay, now, suppose somebody doesn't have that phone number anymore. Suppose they don't have a phone. Maybe their phone's turned off. So the phone is no good because they can't get the alert, right? Let's say the power goes out. So if they send an alert across the television, you can't see it because maybe your power, I'm not talking about their home power, but I'm talking about the power in their area from the where they put the generators and stuff, whatever you call those things, out there on the trees and stuff. So they can't get that information, So I just think that, the siren thing is anybody, wherever you are, you would be able to hear if there's
So what do you want the siren for?
For an alert purposes, like for if it's a tornado watch, because this is the first time we've had a tornado
for a tornado.
watch.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the drowning for.
Well, even with the drowning thing, they should have had those sirens down there. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
They had been warned. Okay, but I think that if the sirens had been gone off down there, if they had them, they would have gotten out that water sooner with the kids that got drowned at the lake.
What lake is this now?
It was, I can't remember because it's old news, but it's still heavy on my heart because I think it was like seven of the children got killed and that drowned in the river, and they were at camp, and so especially at a camp.
Are you talking about in Texas?
Maybe that's where it was. It was wherever it was.
Where where the floodwaters came through and killed like the
kids.
The kids and in that particular county didn't have the alarm system. But what my understanding was that the previous administration had given them the money to do it, but the city and the county rejected the money.
Wow.
That's what I read
Wow.
about
happened.
what happened in Texas.
Right.
And apparently like the water just came through so fast that
Yes.
that many of them just weren't able to
Right.
to get out.
And they said that they had been warned to watch out in case it
Of
was a
course.
flash flood, but that's not enough, you know.
Yeah, because in areas like that, they probably always get alerts like that. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
something's going to happen, and it never happens. The same thing happened with New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
When they're always talking about the levees are going to break and whatnot, and then, in
didn't break.
2005, or something may happen, water may come through, but it's not as bad as what they say, and then people get used to that, almost that false alarm, or how they say, cry wolf,
Right.
and then all of a sudden when something really bad happens, you're just sort of caught in that situation.
Well,
But I do think that, I think that it almost should even be up to like local jurisdictions and things like that. We ought to have like national standards and things of that nature, particularly like in low-lying areas that are prone to flooding and things of that nature. Yeah, I think that maybe almost the federal government should like go in and put like those systems in, irregardless, because it becomes a lot of times it just comes down to politics. Because what I saw in the news was, the people was like, like they didn't want the systems and things of that nature, I guess, because maybe nothing like that had ever happened before. But now I'm guessing
quite sure they changed their mind.
They changed their mind. And the innocent children that died, it's just, they're not even part of the political system.
Hadn't even got a chance.
Hadn't even gotten a chance. And that's just a sad, that's just, but that was my understanding, my limited understanding of what's happening. I do agree with you. I think there were some warnings that went out and things of that nature, but I just think that system just came in so fast that it, that some people just got caught.
Right. And if they hear sirens, when whoever watches it, see about them having to cut backs with the weather people, that's a disgrace, because that's what saves us. For them to fire people in all these different federal agencies, I'm talking about pertinent ones that really affect our way of life. It's a shame that people have gotten fired from those agencies, especially the weather. I thought that, aside from everybody else, but the weather is one of the most dangerous things that this country can embrace at any moment. And I just think that was a shame that they laid off some of those workers, and they trying to restrict on what they can tell and what they can talk about. I never, I've heard of different places that's like down in southern Maryland, when they have hurricane and tornado warnings down there, certain parts of them have sirens that go off. My sister lives in one of those counties, I was surprised, But after this thing happened in Texas, I just think Congress needs to pass the mandatory alarm system that people know, and people are sitting there watching, and they know that they need to make sound an alarm so people know to go someplace safe. I'm talking about, let's say a mass shooting, even that in a shopping center, right? If they know that in PG County that somebody or Virginia, somebody just killed 7 people, and they want to make people in alert, because you don't have your phone up in your ear or walk. I don't anyway, and you're not walking past a television, or you haven't gotten to your car yet. At least if a siren goes off, you know that there's something that I need to pay attention to. Either you're going to look at your phone or you're going to call. And I think that, too, this is my personal opinion again, is that a lot of agencies that are like Homeland Security and different places, that they cut back on those people too. And then you have some people that are in those offices that are not old enough and don't know anything about what it is that they're doing. So the security of our country, my opinion alone, the security of our country is at risk. And I think that we need to look at that for what it really is. And I think that they need to call their congressmen, their council people, and the congresswomen. They need the mayors, the governors, and they need to tell them that, we need to, why put all those laws in effect? Why did you pass all those laws just for somebody just to turn around and be able to take them out or make adjustments to them, Because we are really, if you look at what's going on now, we are really in danger. That's my personal opinion again. This is the way I feel. Like I said, I watch the news all the time, MSNBC,
Well,
CBS.
elections have consequences, and what happens is what happens when reasonable people are in office, and you know, and then you bring in other people, I mean, who won the elections, you know, I mean, this is what happens. I mean, you know, they get to, you know, the president won the election, and he said during his campaign, this is what I'm going to do. And then he not only won the election, but his party won both houses of Congress.
And he's lied to the American people.
Well, I'm not getting.
No, I'm gonna say that not from my standpoint of view.
But the point that I'm trying to make is that, you know, when these elections, I mean, when these elections happen, and you know, it's not here in Maryland that you know that sort of swung the pendulum one way or the other, but in a lot of swing states, that's sort of like what happened. Mm-hmm. And the people who elected him, in my opinion, this is what they wanted. So. So more people who agree with you in those sort of swing states, they got to get out and they got to have their voices heard, because it's, I mean, you can talk to your congressman, mm-hmm. your Maryland congressman, till you blue in the face. Mm-hmm. But if your congressman is not in a position of authority, they can't do anything.
Okay, so here, let me go back to what I was going to say. This is not just my opinion. Like I said, I watch all kinds of news, not just regular news. Those people that voted for him are marching across this country, okay? We don't see it here because they're not putting it on the news here. But if you watch some of those other stations, you will see that you have little cities, big cities, thousands of people out there marching
Paula,
every day.
They can march all they want to.
I'm just saying, though.
They can march all they want to. The fact of the matter is, and this is a fact, they won the election.
Oh, that's true.
But there's another election coming up in about 18 months. Yep. If you want to change it, then you know you got to change the electorate.
Well, here this thing.
You can march, but
marching is good. You know why? Because people then now know that the country is not on that same page.
But they got to vote.
Yes, and so I think that for that period they have to vote. But I think that people need to know that those people are upset. Okay, I think that they need to know so that when the next election comes,
they're upset right now.
Well,
but the most important thing is that going to change their vote?
I think so, because most of these marches that they show you on there, they are protesters against this particular person.
I have my doubts.
And they're protesting against. Well, wait a minute. We're not the only ones that are affected. Okay. Yeah. America's affected. Yeah. So whereas it might have been one way, now if you're a billionaire and you got millions, then you good. But for those of us that are not, it affects everyone. So now we're talking about the masses of people that it affects.
And I are not disagreeing on that. But the point that I'm trying to make is,
got you about the vote.
The fact that I'm trying to make is you effectuate change by voting.
Absolutely.
By putting the appropriate people in places to effectuate change.
And you know, we talk about that every election period. So this is not new to us, because we talk about people getting out there to vote because every vote matters.
Yes.
We talk about it either before the election, during the election, and after the election, okay? Now, the thing is this, is that because they are putting limitations.
But do you know what's happening in Texas right now?
What's happening in Texas right now?
So right now in Texas, and if you follow Jasmine Crockett, I met her in Minnesota a couple of years ago at a National Bar Association conference. Because she's an attorney also, and she was there, and she's been talking about this for a while. But right now in Texas, they're getting ready to redraw their district maps, okay? Because these people are playing chess. They're not playing checkers.
Yep.
So you can be out marching all you want, but they're about to redraw the election map to ensure that the Republicans can maintain their lead in Congress right now.
And they do that everywhere. So I'm not.
No, but if you look at the map, the electoral map, okay, the Republicans only have like maybe a 3 or 4 vote lead in the House of Representatives. Okay, when they redraw that map in Texas, okay? What they're going to do is they're going to probably disenfranchise certain people by putting them in the same districts, and then they'll create districts where the Republicans are more likely to win.
Well,
so what they're going to do is they're going to increase their lead in the House of Representatives by redrawing the electoral map in Texas, because so that's what's happening right now, and she's trying to get the word out.
And I hope that she does.
So people are out marching, they're out doing all this kind of stuff, but what really matters is, you gotta win. You gotta win in the state house, okay? Because that's sort of like that. Congress controls the purse strings. All the stuff you're talking about right now, Congress controls the purse strings, and when they redraw those maps, and all of a sudden now instead of having a 2-vote lead, the Republicans have a 7 or an 8-vote lead. That's all they need to keep things the status quo.
I'm gonna say that not just Texas, but I'm talking about there have been, even here in Maryland at one point in time, where they tried to redraw the map for the districts and stuff like that.
It was done.
And so I'm saying I'm not surprised, okay?
But what makes Texas so strategic is the population in Texas has grown so much, okay? So what's happening is, when those censuses are being done, the population in Texas has increased so much that they're going to be entitled to more representatives in that state. So like a state like California may lose some, but Texas may gain some.
Well,
so when they redraw that map, what's happening is you're going to have more elected officials from Texas, whereas some states may lose some because some states have lost populations, like New Jersey may lose some because they've lost. California may lose some because they've lost populations, but places like Texas and Florida is another place, because a lot of people are, a lot of singers move to Florida, a lot of people move to Florida. So there are certain states who have gained, and what they're doing is they're redrawing their maps.
Okay, but that's not new. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I mean, ever since I've been involved in politics,
it's not new,
and that's, we know what that game is all about.
If you want to effectuate change, if you want to win.
Oh yes.
If you want to make the changes that you're talking about.
Right.
You gotta win. You gotta win in those places. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. That's something that I admired about Barack Obama, because it wasn't about all the talking. It was about action.
Yeah. Well,
and action, when it comes to effectuating change, is about winning at the ballot box.
Absolutely.
And you can't win at the ballot box if you lose in the redistricting part.
Absolutely.
So that's the point that I'm trying to make.
And a lot of people that are aware sometimes in some states that they're aware what that will do, and they actually make it sort of stop. It won't happen, okay? Yeah. Sometimes it passes and sometimes it doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
If Congresswoman Crockett is down there fighting, Representative Crockett is fighting down there for them not to change that map, I hope that she has enough support down there.
Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get rid of her district.
Yeah, I'm quite sure
that they are.
Get rid of her seat. I'm quite sure that they are, because she's very vocal in Congress, okay? She's very vocal across the United States of America. Yeah. And so I would think that people that are aware of who she is and what she's doing and what she's about, that they would support her in.
And I'm not just I just brought her up as an example, because that's a name that people that a lot of people
are familiar with. Yes, and I hope that it wins. I hope that she's very positive and able to stop them from being able to do that. And like you said, and like we've always said, you have to. It's up to you, the American people, to get out there and vote.
You gotta vote.
And if you don't vote, then you can't complain. Okay. You can just talk about woe is me. I can complain because I vote. Okay. Yeah. So you vote. Yes. You can complain. Yeah. We're voters, and we try to encourage other people to vote. Yeah. So I can complain. Okay. But you that sit at home and don't vote, and don't encourage your children to vote, now that's crazy, because if you look at it, they're trying to make it so that even your media, that your television stations in certain areas, that you're not going to be able to get your regular news stations, okay? Or they might not like one person that is very vocal about what's going on and puts what's ever going on out there in the news, that they're getting rid of him. You understand?
Yeah, you're talking about the defunding of public television.
Yes.
That, you know,
But
I mean.
I'm talking about CBS. I'm going further than just.
Okay.
CBS is getting ready to change their lineup. Okay, because
Are you talking about the late night
yes, the late night show.
Okay.
In May. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the next person they're saying that they might go after another talk show host on 7. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, not only that, somebody.
But they're
said
getting rid of the late night shows.
well, that's
read.
because of those people tell you and show you what's really going on.
Yeah.
They have. If you watch your daily news, you do not see a lot of news that you were seeing before. Okay. And that's because somebody might say, look, you need to get them people unchecked because I don't need them doing whatever, okay?
Yeah.
But we're not getting the news that we were getting before. And the only way that you were getting it was watching the late night shows, because they would show you the tapes. Not something that just comes out their mouth. They would show you proof of what's going on with whatever, okay, or what has happened in the past. And the things is that I think that this country is in trouble, because if we get to the point where we're unable to, we're just like any other country that has censor, is that the word? Your news media, or how you get your news, whether it's on the radio or the television, because that's what's going on right now. It's trying to be censored, the radio and the television program. And if that's the case, then we're not any better than any other column in this country, because we're keeping our people from being aware of what's happening, okay? That's what I'm afraid of, okay? Because they could come in and talk about a little kid's show that they don't want on television, okay? That's been on television for years on public broadcasting, okay? And they could talk about, oh, well, I don't think that should be on anymore because, you know, it looked like they got some things, personal things going on with them kids. We're talking about a puppet show where kids learn. A lot of our kids, we had them sit down with them and watch them shows on television, on public broadcasting, okay? And for them to try to get rid of those shows, well, we thought that was maybe to be the end of it. You understand what I'm saying? But they fought against it, so they're still on the air. We have to be proactive as American citizens. That when we see things that happen, that this is supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to have freedom of speech and not be worried about being sued. What is so horrible, it seems like every time somebody says something where you're supposed to have freedom of speech, people are getting sued. So it's shutting people up. I'm talking billionaires, okay? Companies are being sued. But I'm not gonna say by whom, but or what. But they're being sued because they might have said something somebody didn't like. That's why I try to be very careful about what I say on this TV program, okay? Even though it's public broadcasting, but I know that they were after public broadcasting for a moment, okay? And I think that we need to pay attention. Wake up, America. Wake up, America, and watch what's going on. Listen to whatever channel that's giving you the best news, the truth, not propaganda. I'm not asking you to watch something that's just, you think that they don't like a certain person, or there's certain channels out there that will give you proof that what they are telling you is the truth. Those are the ones that you need to watch. We're very limited now. If you notice that your evening programs, wherever you live in this DMV, our information is very limited than what we get from those major broadcasting stations, okay? We don't get all the news that's out there. That if you look at late night, I'm talking about later, I'm talking about like CSNBC, NMB, whatever those initials are for those stations. You would never know that some of these things were happening if you weren't familiar with those stations. And a lot of us, I just recently, since I've become an adult, to start watching those stations, because I always watch my regular hometown news stations. You know what I mean? Well, if that's as far as you go, then you don't know, because a lot of people don't get the newspaper anymore. You know, one time you could get the newspaper, but we don't even have the newspaper like we used to. It's still out there, but people are not buying them or getting them, you know, to their homes like they were. And so we are becoming very limited, if you pay attention, on information that's being funneled through us through public access, public media, and radio and news. And we need to pay attention, because that's what one of our amendments is, freedom of speech. You know, that we're supposed to be able to say things, not derogatory things, but even some people say derogatory things and nobody's suing them, you understand? And I guess they think it's cute, okay? But if somebody says something about them, then he wants to sue them, you know? So I think that you need to pay attention to what's going on in this country. I really do think that you need to pay attention to what's going on with this country. But so far as social media is concerned, so far as television, your local broadcasting stations, and the national broadcasting stations. If you haven't been watching those, then you need to watch them. I'm not saying anybody's names because I just watch more than one, and then I don't want you to think, oh, I'm pro this person, I'm pro that. No, I watch them all. I'm up all night. I'm tired. If you can see, I'm tired. Okay, just so that I can tell you what's going on.
I will tell you that. You know, in terms of consuming news and things of that nature, you know, and I think I've mentioned this before, I generally like to watch the Sunday morning shows. One comes on ABC. You know, this week with George Stephanopoulos comes on at 9 a.m. And then Meet the Press, you know, comes on at 10, and at 10:30, one of my favorite shows, Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan. I think they provide very balanced views because they bring people on from both sides to debate issues and things of that nature. I'm not too keen upon the cable TV shows, you know, in terms of watching the news because, you know, I always think that it's sort of, I just don't think that they give you a, you know, a good sort of viewpoint. Is always sort of slanted. And I think it's more entertainment than the actual hardcore news with the facts and things of that nature. But that's just my opinion. So I tend to watch, you know, those Sunday morning shows, you know, to sort of digest things and sort of get an idea of sort of what's going on. But you know, that's sort of like what I do.
But CBS, NBC, ABC are not cable stations. Those are stations that's been here in this able News Channel 4, News Channel 5, 7, 8, 9.
Well, I don't watch. I don't generally watch that. That's why I watch the Sunday morning shows.
That's the news channels that we grew up here in the DMV on, and those are not cable channels. They've been around from. They have award-winning news anchors.
No, but when you start talking about like Fox News, CNN, CNBC, or NSNBC, you know. You know, I tend not to watch those shows because, you know, I just think that the news is very slanted from.
Oh, okay, well, I don't know who you watch. You know, that's why I don't say no names, okay? Because some people are very, very, they're right on point with the news that comes on the daily news. So I don't know, okay? With that, you make your own opinion, okay? I'm just telling you that just check it out and just see what happens. Some of them that's true, but some of them that are not. So you just have to pick and choose to see what you want to watch. Okay, we say good night.
Good night.
Yeah, because some of them.